Today, I'll be introducing to you guys a brand new classless build, which I now call it Sage. It's a dual wand build that revolves mostly around damage over time stuff, as well as self buffs and sustain. The reason why I call this class Sage is mostly because that's the name of my main class in Black Desert Online, which is a mage that casts pretty cool kaleidoscope type magic with huge AoE, which I think is kind of fitting since it has some AoE and magic circles. And the reason why I chose this build is mostly because I thought it's kind of funny to fight people with dual wands, and it's also a challenge that I enjoy playing with. So for attributes, I try to hit the 5% cooldown bracket on Wisdom, as well as the 5% buff duration on Perception, and then I spend the rest of my stat points into Wisdom. The reason why I'm trying so hard to stack Wisdom is due to wand skills having really high cooldown times, which would make your DPS suck. So having way lower cooldowns would help with sustain as well as damage and buff up times. Ideally, I want 2 Laquirus tomes so that I can gain like a massive amount of wisdom and perception. This is also one of my reasons to go dual wands, since you can get these stats from your secondary wand, which is the other Laquirus tome. And then for belt, I would get the belt of Endless Slaughter from Butcher's Canyon, since it gives you a pretty good amount of HP and damage reduction. Gloomguard Greaves are also great if you can get Kernix to drop it, since it gives you a pretty good amount of wisdom as well. And plus, it's also cheaper to level up traits since it's a blue gear, and for armor as well as boots. I'm trying to save up Lucents to buy Justicar attire and shoes, since they provide a massive amount of wisdom. Plus Justicar attire also gives you more weaken chance, which is perfect for the damage over time build. And lastly, I recommend getting 1 Sapphire Dimensional brand, as it gives you 4 wisdom and 4 perception at level 8, which totals up to 8 attribute points. I also recommend keeping Rutaine's Ring of Wonder, since it contributes a lot of HP for your survival against burst damages. And as for the traits in general, you just need to prioritize cooldown reduction and buff duration, since that's what gives us the most value, because most of our skills are buff skills. You can also try for skill damage boost, since that would help your damage over time a lot, but I don't suggest going for critical hit chance, since I don't think damage over time would take that into account. So I have this set up for like pretty much every contents, including mobs farming as well as dungeons. Although if you want to like mass farming mobs, you can go for this setup instead, so that your damage over time stuff would spread onto other nearby mobs. So, the reason why I use the Dark Explosion specialization on Curse Explosion is that I want my damage over time to have 100% uptime. So like it continuously doing damage instead of having like a 5 to 10 seconds downtime. So it's more towards damage over time rather than burst damage with Curse Explosion. So before applying your 3rd Touch of Despair stack, you'll have to remember and pay attention to whether your Fighting Spirit Barrier, Enchanting Time, and Janus's Rage buffs are up, since your curses only take the buffs that you had into account once, and then it stays that way after applying on your enemy. So for example, you use Decaying Touch to apply the damage over time once, right? But then if you use Enchanting Time after that, the skill damage boost won't apply on it at all, so you have to pre-buff yourself before applying your curses. And so with that being said, your first combo will require you to get at least 2 stacks of Despair on your enemy, and then you can follow up with Enchanting Time, Fighting Spirit, and Janus's Rage into Ray of Disaster, and then you apply Despair once again into Decaying Touch, Unlucky Clock, and finally Curse Explosion. On a side note, what Unlucky Clock does is that it extends your curse's duration, which contributes towards Curse Explosion damage. Since Curse Explosion procs all your curse damages at once, and the damage depends on how long the curse duration is left on your enemy. And then after that, you move on to your second combo, which is Enchanting Time, Touch of Despair, and Decaying Touch into Curse Explosion. As for the mobbing combo, you just need to make sure that your current target has Decaying Touch as well as Touch of Despair before using Karmic Haze to spread the curse to nearby enemies. And then you can use Curse Explosion for a huge burst of damage. As for the weapon mastery, I chose the damage tree since it gives me the most cooldown value out of all. And plus, it also gives a lot of base damage as well as a 6% increased damage over time for curses from the Witch's contract,